Gardener's World is now an hour long, so we can celebrate even more wonderful gardens and have more tips to keep your garden looking good throughout the whole year. Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. And of course, this is the season of fruitfulness, and no fruit is more sumptuous than the quince. Quinces are a fruit just full of mystery and magic, as well as being delicious. And one of my favourite stories about it is the fact that in the 16th and 17th century, quinces were mashed up into a kind of paste for curing baldness, probably again because many quinces are covered with a tiny little fluff. And bald men would take this quincy paste and slap it on their heads and leave it as a kind of quince mulch to encourage hair growth. And I love the thought of all these Tudor and Jacobean men walking the streets of London with what had amounted to a toupee made of jam on their heads. A quince has a kind of floral fragrance that you can just put in a room and it acts as a pomander. Or if you add it to apples, 1 quince to about 20 apples, it just infuses them with a delicacy that no apple has ever had. And it makes marvellous jelly, and of course membrillo, which is a kind of set jelly you eat with cheese. It's good eating, except for the fact that you have to cook it. You can never, ever eat quince raw. On tonight's programme, Frances Tophill is in Devon, where she has the results of her veg trial.
This is nice and fresh.
Well, it's the sweetest, it's easiest to eat.
This is definitely the winner for me.
So everyone's agreed.
Carol is exploring autumn colour.
Look at it, it's all fresh colour. It's like spring all over again, but it's autumn.
And I'm visiting the garden of Lord and Lady Heseltine. Do you actually garden together?
He's the master gardener, I'm the slave labour.
Well, I wouldn't, that's a very unrepresentative view of the truth, if I may say so.
And I shall be planting strawberries and bringing in my bananas for protection, because it was jolly cold here this morning. Still a few roses flowering here in the cottage garden, and the sunflower vanilla ice going strong. No problem there at all. My new cut flower beds have been pretty good. I'd say about 6 out of 10. Plants like this dahlia, grenadier, were put in here because we'd lost the label. Didn't know how it was going to flower. If I had known it was grenadier, I would have put it in the jewel garden, because that's where it belongs, so it won't be coming back in here next year. And on this bed, where we had more annuals, most of them have finished and been taken up. The Drosophila is still going, a little bit more flowering in that, but I want to fill this empty space, and I'll fill the whole bed eventually, with some bulbs for next spring. And the thing to bear in mind when you're making a cutting garden or cutting bed or patch of any kind is that this is a crop. This is not decorative in the garden in particular. It's designed to be at its most decorative when harvested and brought into the house. Now, daffodils are easy peasy, and the basic rule of all bulbs is to plant it at least its own height below the soil. And it would certainly do no harm at all to have twice its own height of soil above it. So there, there, and there. And that will be the soil level. And that's quite a deep hole. Obviously, any daffodil with a reasonably long stem can be grown as a cut flower. I've chosen pheasant's eye because not only do I like it, you've got this white petals with this intense golden middle, but also it's very fragrant. And quite a few daffodils are fragrant, so look out for them. So we'll just take that out. A decent sized hole like that and pop it in. Now, when you're planting for cut flowers, you want to plant closer together than you would normally. So I will
Another hole here. Daffodils are pretty adaptable and pretty unfussy about where they grow. In principle, like all bulbs, they like fairly good drainage and they don't want to be too dry. In practice, they will grow most places as long as they get some sunshine. I will get one more at the back. Now, you can plant tulips in exactly the same way, but for cut flowers, there is another method which is very effective. It is quite early for tulip planting. There's no panic. Normally, you're advised not to begin till after bonfire night, so the 6th of November, and right through till Christmas is absolutely fine. But that's because you want to avoid the risk of tulip fire. And the fungi, which causes tulip fire, are killed off by cold. So the idea is when you plant them in cold weather, as they start to grow, there's much less risk of them being affected. But if you're not worried about that, and there's been no evidence of tulip fire in this part of the garden ever, then you can plant them in October. I'm going to start by digging a trench. And the secret of getting tulips with nice, long, strong stems is to plant them as deep as you possibly can. So choose a type like the Triumphs series or the lily-flowered ones that aren't too early flowering, because they tend to have shorter stems. Nice, upright tulips with long, strong stems. And then, in the bottom of the trench, add some grit. And by adding grit to the bottom, I'm ensuring that they get good drainage and therefore will perform as well as they can. And then we plant the bulbs directly onto the grit. Now I've got a number here. I've got Queen of Night, got Ballerina. I think Queen of Night makes the most fantastic cut flower. And when you're planting in this method, you can plant much closer than you normally would, like that. So we can put that like that, and that like that. Queen of Night is a really dark, dark tulip. It's not black because it's touched with just hints of plum that shine through the deep, rich purple. It's very late too. It won't start flowering till early to mid-May, and I've had this flowering into June if the weather is a bit cold in May. So a late, very dramatic flower. Now I just need to backfill that, fill in there. Now I do appreciate that growing cut flowers is not something that everybody has space or even inclination for. But if you do, give it a go, because it is a great way of bringing the garden indoors throughout the season. Now, Nick Bailey has been going around the country over the last few weeks, giving more general help to gardens, using his experience and skill to transform them from slightly lost, unused spaces into an area that the whole family can enjoy. And this week, he's in London.
I'm here in Dulwich, my stomping ground. I'm visiting a little city garden which has a lot to deliver from a small and tricky space. This garden has been suppressed for years by the shade of a large tree, which has caused the turf to die out and all the plants to stretch. But the tree's gone, and it presents a fantastic opportunity to bring the garden back to life. In this far corner, there's a kids' play area. It's looking a bit sad. It's quite dark as well, so I'm not going to be able to grow anything in there, but I'm going to put down a layer of mulch and improve the play space. This bed, which was previously shaded out, is now a great opportunity for growing fruit. So I'm going to put some white currants and red currants in here that the family can easily harvest. And I'm going to replace this patchy lawn with brand new turf, refresh the whole area and make a lovely space that the family can sit out in. Just get this out of the way. Now, for this play area, I'm going to do 3 different things. I'm going to put down a timber retaining edge, then I'm going to put down a geotextile, and that will stop the weeds coming up, and then finally, some loose, dry bark that the kids can play on. Now, this stuff is incredibly useful. It's a complete barrier to weeds, and it allows water to permeate through. It does have one slight issue, in as much as it tends to shred on the edges, so I tuck it underneath. With the play area finished, it's now time to set to on this newly light border, and it's the ideal place to grow fruit. Now, this soil is surprisingly rich, given it's been under a tree, so I really don't need to improve it to get the tapery growing. And it's quite rampant, so it will quickly spread across the fence and give lots of harvesting opportunities. So that's the last of the fruit into this new fruit border. But I've also put something else in here, Gallium odoratum, or woodruff. It's a fantastic little ground cover plant, beautiful little white flowers in spring, and it doesn't mind growing in dappled shade, so it'll work brilliantly, almost as a mulch underneath these berries just here. Now, the little alpine strawberries on the front are absolutely fantastic for kids because they keep cropping, and most of their fruit tends to be hidden by the foliage, so they're not always stolen by the birds. All of these plants have been really compromised by the shade in the garden in the past, and they're really beyond redemption. So this sad cherry is going to go. I'm going to dig out the whole root of the tree here. The reason for that is the rootstock at the base of the cherry will start shooting up suckers if I leave it there or cut it flat with the ground. So I'm going to get the whole lot out. And actually, that's not the healthiest root ball, so it really wouldn't have been a good plant long term. So I've finished off digging over the whole area, and there's 2 reasons for that. One, it makes the soil nice and loose so I can rake out and end up with a decent level surface to put the new turf on. And number 2, it means that the soil will be open so the new turf can root well into it. So this not so fancy footwork is actually just a bit of a plot shuffle. So I'm just compressing the soil down. It allows you to get rid of any air pockets or divots in the soil once you've done that initial fork and rake over. And then, once I've done my plot shuffle, I'll do a final rake over, which will have it ready for the turf to go down. Work backwards when you're raking to ensure you have a level surface. But when it comes to laying turf, you need to work forwards. In other words, you're working on top of the turf you've just laid, on boards, which helps settle it in and ensure a good connection with the turf roots and the soil. So, as you can see, I'm laying the turf in a tessellated pattern, a little bit like bricks. In other words, the turf is staggered, and that helps it stabilise and stops it moving around. So I'm just making sure that this turf is knitted together. In other words, the soil is connecting with the soil on the edge of the next piece of turf. Well, it's not bad for a day's work. So down at the bottom, there's now a decent play area for the kids. Lots of space, nice and safe down there. Off to the side, the mini fruit garden is established with the currants and strawberries. And I've managed to get a decent patch of turf into the centre of the garden that the family will be able to enjoy.
Alan Power has been going behind the scenes with those managing our most prestigious gardens. And in the last of his films, he is in County Down.
Having been head gardener for 3 years here at Mount Stewart in Northern Ireland, it's a garden I truly fell in love with during my time. And I'm back here today to team up with the current head gardener, Neil Porteous, to find out what happens behind the scenes to look after these stunning gardens. Neil has access to a wonderful archive of original plans and designs left by the garden's creator, Lady Londonderry, which inform his work here every day. There's just hints on the front of all of these books, you know, whether it's Ward's field notes, whether it's the little scribes on the back of the plans, but Mount Stewart, house and gardens, exterior. And I've spotted the Italian garden, illuminated by night.
Brilliant. This was done in 1934 for George V's Silver Jubilee. These are beautiful exotic flowering trees like the South African pea tree, Soralia pinnata, or the Japanese Sephora.
So are you working towards this?
This is the pinnacle,
This is what you're after, is it?
Yeah. These are her drawings, actually. She's the architect. These are scale drawings. She's annotated them to give some of the hard landscaping details.
Even the style of brickwork that she was after. And it's just lovely to see the amount of information that you've got available, that you can actually put Edith back into the garden. One of the most original features in the garden is the topiary, inspired by Lady Londonderry's fascination with Irish mythology.
Okay, Jason up here is working on one of our more intricate pieces. This is the huntress. Most of the formation of these pieces of topiary is actually tying the shoots of the yew and stopping it to make it sort of bush up. And what you're really looking to do eventually is be able to cut about 1/4 of an inch round the frame to get the basic shape.
So it's not a hedge cutter job, you know?
No. Long term, what we want for this is to put the head of the figure back to how she was. And she had a bit of hair and she had a sort of Robin Hood kind of hat with a feather in it. So eventually, you know, we want to be able to add all of that detail in, as well as the bow and arrow and the quiver and all of that, you know.
Yeah, and have you told Jason this?
Not yet, no. better leave him.
Restoring the topiary to its former glory is just one way of bringing the garden closer to Lady Londonderry's original vision. Mount Stewart benefits from a warm microclimate, which enabled her to include exotics from around the world in her planting schemes. Staying faithful to her plans means Neil and his team have to raise many unusual plants from seed. So I've come up to the nursery area at Mount Stewart to meet Alan, the head propagator. Having the ability, the skills and the facilities to propagate and look after the future of the collection is absolutely fundamental. And I'm really excited to see it, because none of it existed when I was here as head gardener. This is where the magic happens.
This is where the magic happens, yeah. We built these cabinets and it's all about generating a nice little microclimate. We have a sand bed and under that we have a soil cable buried and they're about 6 inches apart.
And that's giving the bottom heat to the
plants.
plants.
Bottom heat, 18 to 20 degrees.
Yeah.
The sand is important too because you can water that nicely and then you get this nice sort of humid atmosphere which is perfect for germinating seedlings. We've plants from all over the world. Currently, we're working on a project growing some plants from South Africa. You just cannot buy these plants out in the trade. So that's the importance of the nursery here, to grow all these rare plants, to build up the collection in Mount Stewart is really what we're about.
That's brilliant.
So in this house, everything is just ready to go out into the garden here now.
So this is final stage
This
of what
is
we've
final
seen.
stage of production, and there's a lovely controlled environment here. It's really, really exciting, this Metrosideros here. So we're well pleased with that plant.
That's nice.
So that's grown from seed, and it's about 2.5, nearly 3 years work. That. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Right, I'm going to go and catch Neil then.
Very good.
Thanks, Alan.
Cheers. All the best.
Take
now.
care. Planting this tree is another step towards achieving Lady Londonderry's goal of conserving some of the world's rarest plants. Cracking.
Good.
That's great. It's so nice to put something in the ground.
I know, and it's such a beautiful plant. This is the Metrosideros excelsa, a New Zealand Christmas tree. And it's a beautiful, sheltered, sunny spot. You know, in July, you'll be covered in this filamentous, beautiful red flowers. It'll be just a picture.
I've been on quite a journey with you and your team today, you know, to see the records and the work that you've been doing, learning about Mount Stewart and Lady Edith. The propagation is fantastic, knowing that the collection is secure, and not just secure, but developing rapidly for the future. So I hope you enjoy it for many years to come.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, certainly the topiary puts my Nigel to shame. No, not you, this thing here, matey. Haven't quite worked out how to get a bow and arrow in there, but I will, and I fully intend to have a ball made out of you inside the topiary Nigel's mouth, because that's where it belongs, isn't it? Come on. It was almost frosty this morning here at Longmeadow, and there was a real chill in the air. Now, most plants can cope with that, down to about -2, 3 or 4, but there's one plant here in the Jewel Garden that absolutely will not tolerate any cold at all. This is the banana, Ensete ventricosum morellii. And by any name, it is simply splendid, but it just is not hardy. So I need to lift it and preserve it. And all this is this year's growth, which means that I can cut it all off in the knowledge that it will replace itself next year. And I have to say, it feels very vandalistic, but I know I'm helping out. So if I just cut across like that, I can work my way through it. Now, this kind of destructive yet protective work is only necessary for the Ensete bananas, which are completely tender. If you grow Musa basjou is the most common one, you can leave them outside as long as you build some sort of protection, a wigwam wrapped with fleece or packed with straw. They should be okay. And of course, the crucial thing, the absolutely crucial thing, is to remove it before it needs it. So when it isn't cold. Isn't that just fantastic? As a beautiful piece of design, that curve and line and the colour. It does feel very hard to destroy it, but then you just have to have faith that it can recreate and recreate for years to come. I could just cut across there and it would regrow. But the reason I want to keep the stem tall is that next year, new leaves will come from all the way up it, so I will get more height. And eventually, if the stem is up nice and high, we'll get really tall, dramatic display. Right, that one can come off, that's the top. Last one. Right, now I've got to dig it out. Given what an enormous plant it is, the roots are actually surprisingly small. They are exceptionally thirsty and hungry plants, so they like really rich soil, which is why they do well here, and as much water as you can give them, almost literally. Right, out we come. There we go.
wet. Come on now.
You're gonna have to move, Nigel. They need to be stored, packed in something to protect the roots and to allow them to grow, because although we don't want the leaves to grow, it will develop new roots over winter. Now, if we pull this there, stay there. This is a mixture of ordinary potting compost with 50% of leaf mould. And leaf mould is good because it's very low in nutrition, but a really good texture for the roots to grow, and it holds moisture quite well. I want it to go into hibernation, really, just to gently grow a little bit. Ideally, if you can keep it between 5 and about 12 degrees, it'll be healthy, but it won't grow. And keep it fairly dry. Just water it very lightly and check up on it. Put your hand into the compost, and if it feels dry, give it a little bit more water. And then gradually, you introduce it to heat and light in about April, so it's ready to plant out mid-May. Well, I'm going to put this in the tool shed because last year I kept it in the greenhouse and it was too warm and it grew too much. Whereas the tool shed, although it's in the way, is absolutely perfect. If I can lift it on my own. Oi! Well, that's my banana put to bed for the winter. But some gardens are just revving up now. And Carol has been to visit one of them.
Once upon a time, us gardeners would be thinking about tidying up, cutting everything back at this time of year, but not here. Here, it's all about plants reaching their peak. Everything's a celebration. You really feel it's all saying to you, let's have a party. This place is a family affair. Paul Picton's father came here after the Second World War to manage the nursery, which specialised in growing Michaelmas daisies. Today, they're best known for housing the National Collection. But as well as their asters, they've got a wonderful array of herbaceous plants. So this whole garden, really, its emphasis is on this time of year, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely, Carol. It was originally designed to be a border full of nothing but Michaelmas daisies.
Yeah.
But what we like to do now is to show people how they can associate their Michaelmas daisies with lots of other autumn flowering plants.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of gardens are closing down now, aren't they? People think, oh, it's time to cut the plants down, get indoors by the fire, put the crumpets on. But out here, look at it, it's all fresh colour. It's like spring all over again, but it's autumn.
And if you've got a small garden, there are lots of lessons to learn here, aren't there, about how you can bring this fabulous colour.
There are indeed. The smaller the garden, the more important it is to make sure you have colour for every month of the year.
And anybody could do it, and easy, straightforward plants to grow.
The main thing to remember with them is to keep them in a sunny situation. Very few like to grow in shady spots.
Yeah. But there are all manner of plants through here, aren't there, that people can use? You know, you've got these whacks of goldenrods.
Well, those are some of my favourite things, really, for mixing with the Michaelmas daisies in the autumn. Goldenrods, solidago.
Yeah. What's this one, Paul?
And that's believe it or not, I know it looks old, like me, but it's actually a new variety of autumn flowering Michaelmas daisy.
Is it?
And it's called chili fingers.
Chili fingers. It's a complete delight. And it does look like you. It's terribly elegant.
And a bit ragged round the edges.
Oh, I haven't seen that one at all. And what a wealth of plants there are here. What wonderful texture and sculpture and scale. In the background up here, there's an enormous eupatorium looking down on the proceedings. And then the dainty, twiggy growth of this Alsia cannabina. There are pink bells suspended from its branches, and it's really lovely and dainty. And then there are masses and masses of asters. And don't you just love the way this Ageratina altissima chocolate flows through the planting? And this sweeps down to this wonderfully frivolous plant, Panicetum. You just have to touch it with these soft inflorescences. But in total contrast are these big, round, solid pom-poms of the dahlia, just finishing this piece of the border off. It's magnificent. What a kaleidoscope of colour. The rich gold of rudbeckia, nymphophias and bidens, and the blues of salvias and aconites are so telling. And if vivid, vibrant colours aren't your thing, there are plenty of pretty pastels to choose from. This is a Japanese anemone, Lady Gilmore, and in the background, the dainty arching sprays of this Nicotiana. Really divine combination. So why do some plants leave it till now to come into flower? It's all down to a process called photoperiodism, which is simply the response that some organisms have to changes in day length. As nights get longer, it triggers these plants into flower, which significantly increases their chances of being pollinated. So just as we're bemoaning the shorter days, these plants joyously burst into flower in all their glory. Whatever your taste, there are plants that can allow you to express yourself in your garden right the way through the autumn.
Well, certainly my asters that I planted in here about a month ago, specifically chosen for their ability to flower in some slight shade, are doing very nicely indeed. Now, coming up in the programme, Zephaniah Lindo looks at the mysteries and the magic of fungi in the soil.
We could take each of those fungal strands and join them together, and it would stretch all the way to the moon.
Frances Tophill gives us the results of the vegetable trials that she's been conducting at RHS Rosemoor. But first of all, we have a visit that I made a couple of weeks ago to a garden that has been created from scratch over the last 40 years. And its maker is better known for his role in government than in the garden. I met Lord and Lady Heseltine at the Chelsea Flower Show this year. Now, I knew that Lord Heseltine had created an arboretum, but I didn't know the extent and depth of his passion for gardening in general. So when they kindly offered to show me round the garden that they have both created over the last 40 years, of course, I jumped at the opportunity. Now, when did you start gardening?
Well, I started, I suppose the first experience when I went away to school, and the headmaster gave every new boy a square yard of mud and a packet of Virginia stock seeds. And I methodically covered, and 6 weeks later I had a sea of colour and I was hooked.
And when did you come here?
Well, Anne and I came here in 1976, and when we came here, we had a lot of land, but it had not been gardened or cultivated or anything like that. Slowly we started trying to do something about it.
Over the past 4 decades, Lord Heseltine has created a number of gardens across 70 acres of his estate. They include several large expanses of water, a rill, a trough garden, and a wall garden. But he hasn't done this all alone.
Along with his team of gardeners, all the work is a joint effort with his wife, Lady Anne.
Has the wall garden always been a productive garden, a decorative one?
We wanted an aviary,
Yeah.
we wanted a fruit garden, we wanted a seating area, and we wanted a herb garden. So these four quartiles have got a central point. We went off to Villandry, which has to be one of the great world gardens.
Yeah.
12 acres within a wall garden. And we thought we could replicate it here.
Of course you could.
Hence all the green.
Tell me about these pavilions, I suppose they are.
We
What are
call
they?
them kiosks.
OK.
Because that's what they call them in Turkey. They have
Right.
very similar things. We saw them in Istanbul, do you remember?
Yeah. So the whole thing from the beginning has been a sort of hodgepodge of advice or inspiration from other gardeners.
Don't forget the elephants. I went
down-
on a tour of India with the Furniture History Society and came back having bought 2 enormous marble elephants. And the problem is that they're much too big for the house. So in the winter, I'm afraid they're swathed like mummies.
Do you actually garden together?
No.
No?
A bit,
really.
a bit.
Sometimes. If
Yeah.
there's a huge bit of sort of slashing down to be done, we do it together. He's the master gardener, I'm the slave labour. That's how
Well,
I see
wouldn't.
it.
That's a very unrepresentative view of the truth, if I may say so.
Do you have any real difference in taste at all? Is there a fault line which neither of you can really cross?
No, I mean, see, I'm colourblind. I can't see red against green. But Anne's got a very good colour appreciation. Anne will say that's nice, or that's not nice, or you ought to do more of that, whatever. And then it falls to me to get on and get it done.
It sounds a silly question, but do you eat all your fruit and veg?
No. We do lots of things. We do the
Yeah.
obvious sort of bottling and
Yeah.
freezing and chutney and jams and stuff. But, you know, it's far more than we can possibly consume.
This is quite new, using this espaliated form for the pear on this background. I mean, normally pears are on walls.
Yeah.
But they seem to be very happy with it.
It certainly looks healthy. This is one enormous border. I know you've broken it up into different sections. How important are the borders to you?
I think that they're very important because they are part of the changing pace. You know, you move from the water areas to the open places with big trees and shrubberies. But then, frankly, you want something that's a bit sort of tarty.
A bit colour.
A bit colourful. And but this guy, this nymph here, is a star. It's as though he knew you were coming.
So you're running, you know, a major garden, sort of on a scale with any of the largest gardens in the country, really. It's quite a thing, isn't it?
It's crazy. Absolutely mad.
On an estate this size, his and hers golf buggies are the preferred mode of transport. We're off to the Arboretum, which contains over 3,000 different trees.
It's when you start an arboretum and deliberately planting trees as a kind of collection, you need an awful lot of imagination. I mean, how were you prepared?
People think that, and then it goes with the same argument, you're only doing it for the future.
Yeah.
Of course, future generations will benefit from it. But if you're in your mid-40s when you start, by the time you reach a mature age, if we may be frank, you have got things you worship, you know.
It's been 40 years. What's given you most pleasure over that time?
It must be just driving round and being surprised, because the scene changes, things grow into each other, they create a pattern that you didn't know existed, they create colour combinations that you hadn't imagined. And if you couple that with the incredible therapy of closing the door and you move into a world which is completely sort of absorbing and therapeutic. But it's, you know, it's ours. We do it, we did it. And it's a huge privilege.
In the soil beneath our trees and woodlands and gardens lives one of the largest organisms in the world, and it is one of gardeners' best friends. And Zephaniah Linder travelled to Bangor in North Wales to meet Professor Davy Jones to learn more about it.
Davy, you've brought us down to the woods today to show me something really exciting. Do you want to tell me what it is that we're going to see?
Yeah, so today the plan is to look at some mycorrhizas. They are what I would consider to be, the life force of this woodland, really. We're quite used to seeing the trees, but actually associated with all those trees, underneath the ground, there's a massive network of this fungal hyphae, and that's what's keeping these trees alive for most of the year, I think. The tree is providing the fungus with carbon, which allows it to grow. In return, the fungus is bringing back all of the nutrients and goodness from the decomposing organic matter and the litter that's fallen off the trees and taking it back to the tree.
So in this environment then, with there being so much of them, how easy are they to find? Can you see them with the naked eye?
Well, why don't we just go and have a look now? So let's see what we can see.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So if we just scrape away the soil surface, we should be able to just see under here all of that dense white mycorrhizal mat. I mean, this is a perfect example here. You can actually see the growing front. And each of those little white strands, that's just a dense mycorrhizal network. Because the tree, when it loses the leaves in the autumn, it can take back most of the nutrients, but not all of them. So what the mycorrhiza does is basically takes the rest of them back to the tree.
We can see the mycorrhiza in the patch there, but in this sort of area, how much will there be?
So if we, for example, take this area here, and we could take each of those mycorrhizal fungal strands and join them together into a big rope, we could anchor it here, and it would stretch all the way to the moon.
Fascinating. So that explains mycorrhizal fungi with regards to trees, but what about mycorrhiza in other garden plants? These plantains often grow as garden weeds, and their roots are packed with mycorrhizal fungi, but they're not visible to the naked eye. So we've taken a sample back to the lab to put under the microscope.
What we can see here is actually, this is the root here, the root surface, and these are the root hairs coming off normally into the soil. And this is the mycorrhizal hyphae coming out. This is the one coming from the soil into the docking station inside the root. And then when it finds a cell where it wants to exchange the goods, essentially, it forms like a hand-like structure inside the cell to exchange nutrients one way and to get the sugar coming in the other way.
So it's not like a parasite?
So yeah, these organisms have evolved for millions of years to be together. And the root's actually inviting the fungus into it because it knows that if it invites the right fungus into it, i.e. the mycorrhizal fungus, in return for the sugar that it feeds that fungus, it will get all of those nutrients back. So they have formed a very intimate relationship.
And it's a relationship we gardeners can take advantage of. You can use the fungus already present in your soil to benefit other plants in the garden.
We've already had a look in the lab at some of the plantago, the plantains that we commonly find in the garden, and they're incredibly mycorrhizal. I mean, up to 90% of the root system is infected by the mycorrhiza. And if we just take one of those out of the ground, we can just chop up the soil and the roots that are contained in it, and then mix it with some potting compost, for example, with a slow-release fertiliser, preferably. Something like bone meal would be perfect for this. Because at the end of the day, what they want is somewhere nice to live. And it doesn't matter who they get into bed with, essentially. If they're getting carbon from the plants, or sugar, which is what they want, they will hook up to any plant. So they're sort of perfect for gardeners, really.
Who would have thought that adding the roots of a weed to your compost could actually help the plants flourish?
This strawberry bed gave a really good crop this summer. It was great, and walking on it won't help Nelly. But it's about 3 years old, and it's standard practice to replace strawberries
when they reach 3 or 4 years. And ideally, you do it in a rolling way. So you replace a third or a quarter of your stock every year and chuck away the old plants because they accumulate viruses. The slight complication is that you mustn't plant into ground that has grown strawberries for at least 3 years, and ideally about 4. So you need to have 3 or 4 different plots. So I'm going to plant some more here, which has never grown strawberries before. And I bought some bare root plants. You won't find these in most garden centres, but they're very easy to get online. And a bare root strawberry doesn't look like much at all. There you are. That is the plant. Now, you want ground that is well drained but rich. And don't plant them too close together. These might be small plants, but they need spacing at least 12 inches apart. I will put 3 across a bed like this and then plant them in a grid. That gives them room to develop. One large plant will give you more fruit than 2 small ones. And I'm going to add a little bit of mycorrhizal fungi. I love the idea of chopping up the plantain roots. And if you've got plantains in your lawn, there you are. Fabulous source of mycorrhizal. So, well, make a planting hole, and as with all mycorrhizal fungi, it's contact that is important. So the fungi must actually touch the roots to work. So sprinkle some on the bottom of the hole and just a little bit on the roots themselves. So direct contact and then firm that round. It's a bit of a fiddle adding the mycorrhizal fungi under each one, but actually it does apparently, especially with strawberries, make a big difference. And when you're planting them, obviously you've got nice roots, you don't want to scrunch the roots up. So make a deep enough hole for the roots to go in and try and plant it so that the crown, which is there, is above soil level. You don't want to expose the roots, so not too high and it's not buried, but just pull it round so it's like that. This is Mare de Bois, which is a perpetual strawberry. So we'll crop from midsummer right through till now, really. Now, the reason I've chosen Mare de Bois is because having grown them before, I know that they really have good taste. And in the end, that's what counts if you're growing something like strawberries. It's all about taste. And Francis Tophill has been doing a test all summer on 4 different vegetables: beans, sweet corn, cucumbers, and tomatoes. And today, she brings us the result of these months of work.
It's the final day of our trial here at RHS Rosemoor in Devon. We've been growing beans, sweet corn, cucumbers, and tomatoes. We've sown them all from seed, we've pricked them all out, we've planted them all out, and we've watered and fed them throughout the season. And they've done exactly the same at RHS Harlow Carr in Yorkshire. And today is our final harvest. So we're going to compare them all for yield, and more importantly, for their taste. It's been a good year for beans here at Rosemoor. All the varieties have done very well. Cobra is the best yielder down here, and up north, it's violet podded. But it's all about taste. We've cooked the beans and drafted in the taste buds of some local allotment ears.
Sweet. I like the texture of that one a lot, it's crunchy.
So you like violet podded,
Yeah.
and you like Cobra?
Yes.
I think I would grow these.
So you're going for Helder.
I like this one.
It's got texture, hasn't it?
Yes.
So you like the Helder?
Yes, I like Helga.
And I like that one.
Cobra for you?
Yes.
So which one's your favourite then?
This one.
That's Helder. Interesting. Thank you very much. The Helder just edges it with our allotment growers. But what do Francesco from RHS Harlow Carr and Pete from RHS Rosemoor think?
I do prefer the Helder though.
I agree.
Yes.
See, and actually speaking to other people, that's the general favourite on taste, so...
I'm going to be controversial and go with Cobra. I prefer Cobra.
You like that best?
Yeah.
The cucumbers in the colder conditions of Harlow Carr have done surprisingly well for a traditionally tender crop. But they've been outshone by the Rosemoor cucumbers, which have produced significantly more. At both sites, Burpless Tasty Green are well ahead. Market Moor coming second, and the unusual looking Crystal Apple bringing up the rear. When it comes to flavour, the heritage variety Marketmore is our clear favourite. Despite its prickly appearance, it was incredibly sweet and tasty. Sadly, all of the tomatoes here at Rosemore had blight and had to be destroyed. Luckily, Harlow Carr escaped the dreaded disease. Their best cropping tomato is Tumbler, with Tumbling Tom Yellow second and Hundreds and Thousands third. Thank you for bringing your tomatoes down, Francesco, because as you know, ours all got blight. But interestingly, even though we got blight, we actually had more weight here in Devon than you had in Yorkshire, didn't you? Actually, today I like the yellow flavour more.
I think I agree with you, yeah.
And yeah, I think the yellow one is the winner today.
Agreed. I think Tumbling Tom Yellow, interestingly, from Yorkshire is tastier than the others. Well, this is our last harvest, the sweet corn. And Pete, it looks like it's doing really well down here.
Yeah, it has. It's done really good this year. We've got lots of good cobs here. And this Murray picnic here that I'm picking now has really picked up. If you remember when it was planted, there were small little plants. We didn't think it was going to do too well.
And how about you, Francesco?
Sadly, we haven't had any yet, but I am confident we will get some in a couple of weeks' time.
But 2 weeks isn't so bad, I guess.
No, I can wait that long.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Once the sweet corn is harvested, it's carefully counted and recorded. Murray Picnic has come out tops. Swift is second, followed by Northern Extra Sweet. So Murray Picnic is winning the yield race. Let's see how it does in the taste test.
Yes, this is nice and fresh.
One is the sweetest, it's easiest to eat.
It's nice and juicy and sweet, and this is definitely the winner for me.
So a really clear winner then. Everyone's agreed, Murray Picnic.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah. I think that's everything sweet corn should be. That is just, you know, delicious.
Is there a winner?
I'm tempted with Murray Picnic.
So am I.
That's what everyone else said too. It is delicious, isn't it?
It is.
So, in terms of the north-south divide, what have you learned?
The south, we are ahead. We've got a much sort of earlier cropping time. I think it's fair to say we've probably got higher yields as well in the south.
Completely agree with you. Warmer temperatures means the crops grow bigger, quicker, and as a result, more productive.
So kind of what you would expect,
yes.
really. After tasting all of our crops, Helder beans, Tumbling Tom yellow tomatoes, Marketmore cucumbers, and Murray Picnic sweet corn are the victors. Well, that's not been the most scientific of experiments, but I've had a lot of fun doing this.
There's no question that taste has got to be the arbiter of the best vegetables to grow. And with your strawberries, it is a good idea to have some means of covering them because frost can lift them and expose the roots. So if they can be kept frost-free, they will develop much better. I made this veg plot in April, and it's been very productive. And you can see that it's set up for winter. Nice chard growing, we've got garlic growing on either side, broccoli, cabbages. These artichokes grown from seed, which I sowed in March, have grown strongly and will start cropping well next year. What didn't crop so well were my pumpkins and squashes, but now's the time to pick them however big they are. And when you pick pumpkins or squashes, you want to make sure that you don't damage the stem. So pick them in a T. So if we take this Turk's turban, we do a cut there and a cut there. So what you've got is a T shape on top, and we can take that off. And the reason for that is it means that we don't leave a wound. That will die back and leave a nice, strong stem. And what I have to do with them, it's feeling nice and hard, it's just rather small, is ripen them as much as possible. So put them in a sunny spot. The reason why these didn't do very well is because it was rather cold in July and August. And it didn't really heat up till the second part of August and September, and that was too late. There we go. Now this one is a green Hokkaido, and that is my rather meagre harvest. I can now take the foliage, put it on the compost heap, dig the ground over. Because it's heavy, I'll dig it with a spade, leave the clods nice and big, and let the worms and the weather break it down slowly over winter. Now, I don't know about winter, but if you're thinking of this weekend, here are some jobs for you. Unless you live somewhere very warm, chances of your tomatoes ripening any more are minimal. Better to cut your losses and harvest them. Red ones can be stored by making them into sauce and freezing them, and green ones will ripen if you put them into a drawer with a banana. Pull up the top growth, dig the beds over, and you can use the greenhouse either for storing tender plants or growing winter veg. Whether you've grown them yourself from seed or you're buying them, now is the time to plant out wallflowers. And then the roots can get established and they will grow away faster and stronger next spring. If they're a little straggly, pinch out the growing tips to create a nice strong bushy plant. And by the way, if you're planting them with tulips, and they make a great combination, always plant the wallflowers first and then the tulips in between them. Although most fig trees are still covered in fruit, none of them, unfortunately, will ripen. So you should remove all figs except for those smaller than a pea, because not only will the immature figs never ripen, they will also inhibit the development of next year's crop. Hello. Come snish not. Well, that's it for today. Bye-bye. Come on, you lot. Come on, down you go. There's a good girl. Come on, you. Down you go. Come on.